Back again, boys. We're back again with another Moonkin Monthly. This month we are joined by Gapezilla and the Davidq. Gape's from Encore and Davidq is from Vodkaz. Gape, give us a little bit of introduction about yourself.
What the hell? You're just gonna put me on the spot?
Yeah, sorry.
I don't know, man. I like to be a big chicken and kill raid bosses.
Astral form or Moonkin form?
What the hell what did you just... I'm leaving this show right now.
I mean, I'm currently
Moonkin
using
form.
Astral, to be honest.
Wait, you use Astral form, Nick?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I use Astral form.
Hey,
yeah.
Alright,
good luck with your podcast. Goodbye.
Yeah, I also use Moonkin form. I think it owns.
I mean,
So David, give us a little bit about yourself.
I play Moonkin. That's about it.
That's about it. You don't play Warlock or DH?
Yeah, I play those two, but that's not
The
relevant
legend
to the
tells.
podcast.
Dude. Yeah.
I just play Moonkin. I don't know what else to say.
Gape plays everything, so.
I play everything.
And Nick, what's
Hello.
up with you, man?
not much. Yeah, I don't know. Not much to say.
2,500 RBG'er?
Oh, 26, okay. Close to 27.
Dude, I got to 2550 in threes, Nick. I'm catching up.
We got sniped by the rank 1 team yesterday.
Sucks to suck.
Nothing you
All
can
right.
do.
So basically the show is going to be about parsing and general performance in raid. Gape and David have been some of the best Moonkins in NA for a fairly long time at this point. So one of the first questions is being some of the best Moonkins, what exactly do you think you guys do that makes you different from other performers? I know there's a lot of different things that go into it, like rotation and being able to understand the fight. But what do you think some of the most important concepts to learn to be the best Moonkin player that you can be are? David, we can start with you.
Well, are you asking how to orange parse or actually do rank 1 damage?
I think rank 1 damage is probably a little bit more than the scope of what we should be looking at, because you guys are I think we're all orange parsers here, but Gape and David are specifically looking at rank 1 damage pretty heavily for tiers at this point.
So I guess the first part would be to just understand the fight fast and get good cooldown usage. Stuff like saving your Fury or Balloon, or pulling Astral Power for ads, basic stuff like that is required. Obviously there's a bit of RNG involved, and then it just comes down to min-maxing everything so you don't lose any small amounts of damage at some places, refreshing dust too early, not managing movement well, dodging abilities obviously so you don't have to heal yourself or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say that's most of it. Then 20% of it is just the luck with trinket procs and stuff like that, and another 20% is just your kill times depending on who else is in your raid. So it's not always about your own play.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just say min-maxing the really small stuff is what gets rank 1s, and then just playing good overall. Mm-hmm. I guess gear has an effect on it too, but I don't feel it's that big, that expansion.
I feel gear hasn't been that big since Emerald Nightmare. Whenever there was a large disparity in legendaries,
right?
Obviously, you could get if you have the best legendaries, you're going to do the best damage.
I would argue that it's still Azrael pieces that you need for sure to at least do decent damage.
I think
if you want rank 1s at this point, I'm pretty sure you just need double lively.
Oh yeah,
you can get away. You can get away with double streaking stars too. I think I've been playing it a decent amount, and I'm doing fairly good damage. But
currently,
obviously, that
at least trinkets are not that heavily needed for DPS.
Yeah, trinkets for sure are very small, compared to past expansion, with whispers of the Dark, Whispers of the Dark.
Yeah, Whispers in the Dark. That was a big owner trinket.
Or even
most
ACI.
trinkets, I think
in-
most trinkets right now are like between 1.5 to 2.5%, like across the board for overall damage.
That's just the procs themselves.
Also, that might just be because it's like the first raid and they don't want to give you like the most retarded trinkets out there, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's just the procs themselves.
If you compare it to
like,
Nightmare, was like the same, right? You had like shitty trinkets all over.
Well, the procs of the trinkets were a little bit better, but like the main stat was like a lot lower. Whereas most of the value of trinkets right now comes through the main stat, which is it's definitely something. I don't know. It makes on-use trinkets like way overvalued as opposed to like just like passive trinkets. So what exactly do you think about rotational stuff? So personally, I don't think actually rotation is as big as people make it out to be sometimes. Obviously, it's a fairly big deal to be able to like understand like what the rotation is, but like making sure that you have like the fundamentals of your rotation down is more important in my opinion than like, I don't know, like making sure that you're always casting the correct thing, right?
I mean, just being just always casting and never having downtime is like pretty huge. Even if you're not casting the right stuff compared to someone that's not doing anything on movement or just like not casting sometimes and like missing global cooldowns, even if you just Moonfire, you'll gain extra damage.
There are people in my guild who still just miss globals. Like looking at logs, there's like these micro gaps in their globals that shouldn't exist. It's just like, why? That's like such a big thing for
They're
so
just
many
not
players.
queuing up spells or like
even players at the top end just like not queuing properly.
what do you guys think you guys do differently in order to be able to like perfectly maximize like movement? So beyond like understanding the fight, what do you guys think about like obviously some of the strongest points in your guys' play is your ability to like minimize your downtime. So what do you guys think that you guys do a little bit differently than the other people in order to be able to like perfectly minimize this downtime in order to be able to like push for these rank 1 parses and everything else?
Well, in my opinion, knowing the fight is everything. You need to know every like available opportunity you have to, do damage. You also it requires a good understanding of like your raid as well, because everyone's raid is different. Let's use Fetid as an example. The people getting like the best logs on that fight are going to be not saving all their shit for the blobs, because then you're just going to lose like uses of spells throughout the fight.
And Arsenal getting bopped on Fetid Devour knockback so he could blow his cooldowns is also super sick.
Wait,
yeah.
what?
He gets bopped.
Yeah.
2 bops during his cooldowns.
Like, especially when the boss is enraged, right? His blobs aren't taking extra damage, but he is. So any extra time that you can spend hitting him rather than the blobs is going to like look better on your own log. Now that's like a scum thing to do.
I mean,
but
we've converted to the strategy where we're doing the 2 blob strategy, right? I don't know if
that's the best one if you're going
to
like
where I
blobs,
blow
obviously.
both sets of my cooldowns just straight into the boss, and I'm just like, oh yes, this is clearly the way to parcel this fight. But it's like, is it the best way of doing the fight?
Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah.
I mean, you can't prog that way, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly. You cannot prog that way. Do you guys think that parses like? Do you think that being able to do consistent? You guys do consistently more damage on prog than the average player too. It's not just like you guys are very good at parsing. You guys are also very good progression players. Do you think progression damage is like way more important than being able to like? I don't know, like take maybe like safer plays, because you guys do play a little bit more of a, I don't want to call it a risky style, but you take a more of aggressive style with your damage versus like doing mechanics sometimes. Like in Legion, I would sit bear like significantly more than you guys would, just because I was more concerned about dying as opposed to being able to like get high numbers. But you guys are putting more like faith in your healers, and you kind of maybe it's an understanding of your group, but like what exactly do you think about being able to play this more aggressive style for going for damage for prog Gape?
Sounds like a healer problem to me. You need to know your healers need to know you. You need to know your healers. You need to know what you can get away with, essentially. On a prog, you can't get away with much, but there are still things you can get away with. I also like to. Anyone who ever watches like a VOD of mine, you'll see I stand like freakishly close to everything that can kill you. I'm like millimeters away from every single like AoE spell that you need to be avoiding, basically. I have people tell me all the time that like they're freaked out that they think I'm gonna die, and it's like, no, I know I'm good here.
Yeah, no, on Agrimar, I would always watch you, and during like the circle ring that comes out, you would always be standing so fucking close to that circle, and I'm just like, I would just continue running, but Gape is like, he understands what's going on.
Yeah, I actually feel the same. I think just the way movement works, I don't think you would call it more aggressive. I think it's just, I don't know, a better understanding of like risk versus reward.
Mm-hmm.
It's also been maxing, right? Because there's no reason to walk even further, so you just save
if you're
time
not
and
gonna
GCPs.
get hit by it,
Yeah.
If you're not gonna get hit by it, there's no reason to
Exactly.
move further.
Mm-hmm. I
It's
definitely play a more conservative style for sure. I like heal myself a lot more, and I don't know. It's definitely a different style. There's nothing wrong with it.
It also requires you to trust the players around you and for them to trust you to play something like that. Because eventually, you know, if you're standing on the very edge of the circle where it might even look like your model's inside the circle, eventually people will stop freaking out about it. You know, at first they'll see it and they'll freak out and they'll like stutter away from you. They'll cancel their own cast. But eventually they stop. You're just like, yeah, dude, I'm fine.
Do you think Moonkin is built to be one of those pad classes like Shadow Priest and locks, some of the lock specs?
Oh, Lord, don't get me started on this.
Okay.
I don't think so personally, but
I don't think so either.
it's just because we don't get any like without shooting stars being exponential, we don't get any additional resources from multi-dotting or like just doing AoE in general. So I feel like it's completely different than Shadow Priest and Affliction Lock.
I don't know if it's just that though. I think the type of player that you end up having on Shadow Priest and Affliction Lock just ends up being this more like risky style of player who perfectly understands their movement, similar to like what you guys were saying, who like ends up perfectly understanding their movement and understanding when they can take these risks in order to be able to maximize their damage as like Shadow and Affliction. But I don't know. And then it's like, and then my follow up question was like, is Moonkin like one of those like more risky style classes?
You need way more effort for Shadow to be able to actually do like good damage and max damage to min max with the Shadow compared to Boomy. So I think we are not the same, but we are close.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that Moonkin's actually a difficult caster compared to like Shadow and Lock and Mage?
No.
Myself, no, not at all.
No.
Shadow and Lock
Moonkin
are probably way harder.
Moonkin is a
I
very,
don't know
very
about way harder.
Well,
I mean,
at least harder.
I don't think anything's way harder.
Yeah, no,
but it's
not way harder.
Lock actually just is not hard. You dump your dots, you Zerking, and you Dark Glare. and your top DPS. There's nothing else to it. Shadow has a lot more to it than both specs, I'd say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
but it's still pretty
of the
simple.
Void Form mechanic, or
yes.
I mean, I think that's another one of the reasons that Shadow is like needs to be more greedy style of player because of how the Void Form mechanic works. And then, I mean, obviously Surrender's not like a big thing, but if Surrender was ever like taken and like relevant again, Surrender would be like a pretty big disparity in terms of like who's good and who's not on Shadow Priest as well.
Which is the reason they nerfed it, right? Because the top end players would do significantly more damage than anything else in the game.
Insert Aatrox and Hano here.
Yep.
Yeah. I have a pretty good example of that. Bora I don't remember what guild he was in before Encore, but he was telling me about how his guild in Emerald Nightmare, like every guild, tried to bring Shadow Priests because they're, when played properly, literally doing more than twice as much damage as the second highest class in EN, right? And his Shadow Priests just were not good. They were not able to hit like 3 Void Torrent surrenders, not even close. And so they're just doing less damage than everyone else instead of doing more. So it's just like, surrender was a real egregious offender of the skill gap problem. I think there should be mechanics in place that allow like really good players to excel, but surrender was just way out of line.
Well, yeah, because like, I don't know, we can just use round numbers here. Only 30 or 40 people in the world could even hit 3rd Void Torrent, right? And it's like, oh, well, if you can't hit it, Shadow's mediocre damage, right? It's not like that great. But then, like, if you're able to hit this 3rd Void Torrent and stay in Void form for like, what was it, like 20 more seconds at like a jillion stacks, you're actually just pumping out so much extra damage plus like execute and everything else, right? I don't know. I wish I would have like played a Shadow Priest back then just to kind of see how difficult.
That would have been a sight to see. Like to see shadows on surrender.
Dude, can't you move around too? Like, don't you actually?
Yeah, you
have
can
no
cast
skill?
and surrender.
Oh,
I played it. It was really hard.
It
was
hard,
really
yeah.
hard. Okay. I don't know. It seems like it's one of those things where it's just like a spell queue issue, like you were stating before, but maybe it's just not. Maybe it's actually hard. Because didn't your globals only actually matter in like the last like 30 seconds of surrender? Or the last 20 seconds?
I mean,
or is it like?
I think after like a certain amount of time, it just mattered all the time. If you fucked up like,
if you fucked up
one or
once,
two
later on
GCDs,
you're done.
Yeah, we had like one really good priest and one really bad one. But yeah, okay. So Moonkin's not one of these high APM specs. It's just
oh, definitely not.
So Gape has mentioned this to me, and so basically the narrative is that Moonkin is not top tier, even though Moonkin has been a pretty solid class for 2 full expansions. And I'm kind of bringing this in as like a discussion topic: is why exactly do we believe that Moonkin isn't this top tier class? Because I know we've discussed it on the show before how balance hasn't always been like the best class or what you're always looking for. But balance has been a good class, as Gabe stated, for 2 full expansions at this point. It was really good in Legion. It was fairly good in WoD, and it's been pretty good in BFA thus far. So basically, why do people kind of hop on this like narrative of, oh, balance is like this sinking ship, and it's like not doing like great damage, and it's doomed, and we're dying and everything else. Nick, you can start us off. What are your actual thoughts on this?
Oh, I think usually the problem is people look at graphs like Simulation Craft and stuff and just jump on the gun, right? Just like instantly think, oh, we suck. It's just a bad like visual to see where our class stands. So in general, I think our class is actually fine. It was fine for the last expansion. It never was like hit or miss. It was always good on a certain level. Never the best, but never the worst. We just had like, I think also the raids, like fights like, what's a good example? Maybe Very Mattress, or I don't know, your priority damage, right? It always mattered.
Jin.
Yeah, same example. You had 3 ads, you literally just nuke those ads. Like, fights always play around us, right? Which also helps our spec. We never had like fights where we really sucked, besides like maybe 1 or 2. As in like Zul in Uldi, maybe.
Yeah,
there's like no reason to really bring a Boomy besides maybe you innovate. And that's it. But also our utility is great, so that's also a point we have.
So Gabe, do you also think that maybe your narrative is also being pushed by the fact that you're like, I think it's easy to say that you're like one of the best players, and you also play Moonkin. It's not like one or the other. You're actually a very good player at all specs. Do you think that Moonkin maybe also is a little bit more glamorized in your mind because of like how you're playing Moonkin and like your own individual play? Or do you think Moonkin has actually just been like this pretty good spec that people just kind of shy away from because Warcraft logs graphs just like underrepresent us on these fights that don't really fill our niche sometimes?
That's interesting. I mean, it could be that I just like the class so much, play the class so much that I have like that inherent bias, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Having the perspective of also playing a bunch of other classes, I don't like. I've never felt like, oh man, I really need to bring my Warlock into this raid. You know, even now, even in where Warlock is clearly again like just hilariously overpowered. I've never thought like, man, I really need to play my Warlock because I feel like I can compete with Warlocks even still. Not like on everything, and there's clear cases where I'm just gonna get smoked and there's nothing I can do about it, but I feel like the doom and gloom narrative gets pushed a bit too much by people. I think the only time in the last 2 expansions where we were maybe anywhere close to bad was like EN, but that was only if, you know, you didn't get lucky and get Dreamcatcher early.
I mean, Stormseer Fulmination Charge was a pretty big crutch then too. You could actually do pretty competitive damage with just Storm Singers. You didn't have to have
with the Master Snapshot, yeah.
That owned.
Bring it back.
That was fun. I thought that was really fun actually.
Yeah, you know what else was fun? Emerald Dreamcatcher first edition.
I missed out on that too. That actually, I don't know. I think that's another one of those things where it's like the Shadow Priest Surrender to Madness thing, where it's just too difficult for the wide audience that it really shouldn't exist in terms of like gameplay because like your ability to min max that and like the disparity between the best and like middling players is just so high. Because like somebody like I would argue that you 3 would be significantly better at playing Emerald Dreamcatcher than I am because I don't know. It's really hard. It was really hard for me to play it even whenever it was like meta at the very end of Antorus because I just tunnel so hard on like making sure I'm keeping up my ED stacks that it like really kind of impairs my ability to do mechanics sometimes, and it's like I don't know. It felt like it was really overwhelming to me.
You gotta have a big brain to do ED and do mechanics. It was pretty tough, but like my old man hands would hurt after every raid with ED too. It was great though. It's like a good workout, you know. You finish a raid and you're like, nice, my fingers are literally burning. That was a great raid.
But Gape, I thought you said you had wrists of steel.
I don't believe those words have ever come out of my mouth. Make things up.
On another point of being Moonkin being top tier, I feel like the reason why we're never at like the very, very top is that class is kind of designed around this niche we have with Starfall.
Yeah, spammable AoE is like weird because it doesn't really feel good right now, but but no class's AoE really feels good right now, I think, except for like Warriors and Demon Hunters are like bullshit, but those are the only 2 classes that like have like good AoE, but it's still not even spammable. Like Moonkin's AoE is like fully spammable.
And so I feel like we're tuned around this sort of niche a little bit, and they don't want it to get too crazy for anything, so I feel like that might be one of the reasons why we're never like at the very, very top, even though we're always really good.
Do you think that they kind of go after us a bit much then, even still? Because I feel like we're always disproportionately low on single target. It's not like non-competitive amounts of low. We're normally bottom 50% single target, even though we are fairly high on AoE.
Yeah, I do believe that to be the case.
Do you believe that it is like a disproportional amount lower on single target though?
No.
Okay, you think it's a good balance?
I think our single target is, as long as it's not like, you know, griefer levels of single target.
Like as long as my single target is never as bad as Siege of Orgrimmar ever again, like I'm fine.
What was wrong with balance in Siege? I didn't play back then. I don't really know anything about Siege balance.
Just didn't do no damage, man.
Wasn't like Warlock broken? Warlock's been broken for so fucking long. I don't know what I'm saying.
Every expansion.
Yeah, man. Wait, what?
Every expansion,
yeah. So when's the Trifecta Gaming reunion, Davidq?
Actually, in 2 weeks. I think an e-girl passed our main tank in Radar IO score, and now he's very upset.
Oh no!
So those of you who don't know, Davidq is actually sponsored by Trifecta Gaming to do Mythic Plus. Not to do Mythic Plus, but he's sponsored for the MDI and stuff like that for next MDI, I guess. And so we're going to kind of segue this into Mythic Plus. So Balanced Druid and Battle for Azeroth has definitely been in a unique spot for Mythic Plus in terms of utility, damage, survivability, whatever else. David, kind of give us your little bit of thoughts like on what Balanced Druid's strengths are in Mythic Plus and what you should kind of be looking for moving forward.
Well, definitely the huge point I think for me this expansion is its utility. With the amount of tank damage that's going on right now and like how squishy they are, Treants is just like an amazing tool that enables like some crazy pulls to be made just for like those couple of seconds of downtime where the tanks don't have, like Vampiric Blood and or Bone Storm on. It just enables those huge pulls that can make certain dungeons just possible. Like think of Motherload and stuff like that. And then Soothe just brings such power to the group on a week like Raging or even normal weeks on stuff like the mobbing King's Rest in the first room that just fucking owns your tank if it's not soothed. And on top of that, the Lively Spirit trait just gives you amazing damage during Incarn. And so if your group is good and plans around your cooldown, even with all that utility, you can still be like top damage. So I believe we're in a really, really good spot for Mythic Plus.
So
I do feel like it's a bit relying on Lively.
Yeah, so Gape is also currently one of the top Mythic Plus Moonkins, as he's been doing a fair amount this expansion. And do you think that Moonkin is like by far like the best range DPS? Because it seems to me like the best comp right now is this Assassination Rogue, Demon Hunter, and then Balanced Druid, just because like the availability of stuns, insane amount of CC, like a lot of utility, and then it has like Balanced Druid brings a decent amount of burst damage. While it doesn't have like a ton of sustain, it's like fine, but it does have this like large amount of burst damage. And if you're kind of pulling around Balanced Druid's cooldowns, it seems like it's top tier. Gape, do you have any thoughts on this?
I'd say there are a few set of affixes that greatly favor balance. Things like Raging, Necrotic, any trash affixes, basically. Any fortified weak, pretty much. Yeah, because, like David said, Treants just give such a big window of opportunity for your tank to just build resource or wait for their CD to come back up or whatever. I play with a Brewmaster when I push, and giving him 10 seconds free to just recharge brews, not have to purify, is just huge. And I track I track the externals on him. I track when he has his personal up and everything. So as long as you're not overlapping, you can actually do like really insane pulls with Treants. And even at like the highest keys, your trees will live for the full 10 seconds most of the time.
Armor scaling on Trents is actually just fucking nuts.
Crazy.
People always complained about them dying in Legion, and I didn't understand that because they would only die to like Mob Souls trash, in my opinion. And then it was like, I don't know. I feel like they were way better than people give them credit for in Legion, but now they're just like, they do like competitive amounts of damage, and they are like way, way better than the other 15 options, I think.
Yeah, but then when there's not a trash affix, when it's a tyrannical week, I think Moonkin and Mage are probably very interchangeable.
Is Mage? I've been struggling. Is Mage even that great? Because it feels like Assassination Rogue brings all the things that Mage does.
Yeah, but you don't... I guess you don't like need a mage or anything. Mages are very good at dealing with spawns as well. They have 7 different freezes to make sure the spawns can't move. If they're running Comet Storm, they can pretty much just one-shot a set of spawns. So like, there are some pulls where will be too many infested mobs to CC, or even if you miss a CC and you have to deal with an infested mob real quick, a mage is going to guarantee that you kill those spawns like no problem, no questions asked. Whereas Moonkin is actually one of the weaker classes at killing spawns. If you're running a Moonkin, you need to have other good classes that own spawns.
I mean, balance is like
successful.
okay at killing spawns, but you really don't want to dump Star Surges into those.
Yeah. You can save Star Surges for them, but like if you're Star Surging in the middle of the pack, you're actually just inting your damage. You're not going to be a valuable member. I mean, the pack's going to live way longer.
And obviously that's the most important thing, right? Is being able to not let them up, because if the mobs infest more mobs, then obviously the pack is going to last way longer, and that's going to be pretty bad for you as a whole. But like, I don't know. Balance is definitely not super sick at killing infested. And yeah, maybe Mage is a little bit better for Tyrannical weeks. Yeah.
And then I know there's a group that runs with, or there's a few top groups that run with Hunters as well. Hunters are obviously also really good. Hunters bring, really good everything damage, honestly. And they also have CC for infested and CC for Gahoons, and just very good class. I'd say Hunter, Moonkin, and Mage are all pretty interchangeable. Just depends on the affixes. But like Moonkin has a clear advantage on any affix where trash is hard.
Do you think Solar Beam is too good in Mythic Plus?
No.
With them nerfing Arcane Torrent, it feels like almost mandatory for some dungeons.
Oh yeah, for some dungeons, sure. It's like very.
It's like super
strong.
Sick for Underrot. It's like super sick for, Motherload. I don't know. I don't know where else.
Basically, any pull where a Blanket Silence will work, Solar Beam is going to be really strong. There are some instances, some mobs that aren't affected by Silence. They can only be interrupted.
Balance is trash at King's Rest. I'm pretty convinced that it's really bad at that dungeon.
I would disagree. They bring in Enrage for the mobs in the first room. You can spec Mass Entangle for the first boss to just completely trivialize the encounter. You can... What else? Treants are very strong in almost the entire dungeon, especially on the bridge with the Berserkers. You can...
Dispel.
You can dispel the shot.
The timers for the Severing Blade debuff are pretty fixed, so it's very easy to drop trees right as they're about to cast it, and then they'll cast it again right before the trees die, if they're alive that long. So it trivializes so much of the trash in that instance to bring a Moonkin.
Why is Hunter actually good in Mythic Plus? Because I see European people running Hunter a lot, and then it's like, I don't really know any NA Hunters that are pushing Mythic Plus, so I don't understand why that class is very good in Mythic Plus right now.
Strong personals, being able to feign mechanics is a thing. There's 2 bosses in King's Rest actually 3. The last 3 bosses in King's Rest, you can feign every single targeted ability at you, pretty much, and it cancels the ability. Being put in a tomb on the second boss, you can cancel.
The charge.
The charge on the third boss, you can cancel. Yep.
And then the leap or whatever, right?
And then the leap on the last boss.
Do you think Shadow Meld is good? Do you think Shadow Meld is way better than being Horde for Mythic Plus? Because it feels like it is to me.
Yes.
It just seems on paper that Shadow Meld skips are just so fucking good, because do you have? I don't even know if you have to have a rogue if your entire group is Alliance, right?
No, you definitely. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I mean, you still are gonna want a rogue, because rogue is bullshit right now, but you don't need Shroud then. Whereas I think for Horde, Shroud is almost mandatory to some regard.
It depends on the instance. There's some instances where you will only Shroud skip one thing. King's Rest, you get almost no value out of Shroud, for instance. So for places like that, you're not going to get much value out of Shadow Meld either. But then a place like Toldagor or Motherload, where you're doing at least one or maybe even multiple death skips and using Shroud multiple times throughout the instance, Shadow Meld's just insane.
Yeah. And it obviously doesn't make Rogue, you just want to get rid of them. Rogue is I think Rogue is just a bit strong right now, personally, but I don't know. I wouldn't be super opposed if they just kind of deleted Shroud. Shit seems fucking dumb to me, but I don't know.
I'm all for skipping annoying trash. I'm all for that. And
If they deleted Shroud, they would
skipping
need a
annoying
big rebalancing.
trash. I'm all
Big
for
rebalancing
skipping.
on instances.
The instances feel balanced and like designed around having a shroud at all times, though, which is like, I mean, it's obviously not all instances, but it's a pretty large majority of them like require some shroud skip, and it's like I can't tell if that's just how the dungeons were designed to be done, or if that's just people trying to adapt to not pulling bullshit trash, right?
Trash sucks in BFA. The dungeons suck.
Trash is definitely interesting. So they definitely hated the pull it all and kite strategies that people were doing in late Legion in terms of like Neltharian's Lair and Black Cold and all these other dungeons, and they have really punished people for not wanting to do that.
You still do that, by the way.
Yeah.
Even though there's lots of trash mobs that will prioritize the closest target instead of the target they have threat on, you still kite everything, pretty much, that's dangerous.
But you really can't kite as much as you would be able to if Infested didn't exist, and if all these mobs didn't do bullshit to your melee and just like randomly one hit them with these mechanics that are pretty undodgeable because it's like based on proximity to melee, not based on threat.
I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head where that's true. The melee will get hit and it'll hurt, but I can't think of one where they get one shot. You just have to have your healers
the
actively
squeeze,
heal.
right? In Toldegor? Won't that just like one hit people?
Oh, the squeeze. Yeah, okay, that one's pretty annoying, but like all that that's
have
an
to knock
insane
it, but,
pull.
like, okay, yeah, sure, that's an insane pull, but that's exactly what they wanted to stop, right? And the squeeze is attempting to stop it, right?
I guess that's true, yeah. But the squeeze is also a route, so I know when we run
I
it,
don't have
we
an
just
issue.
we bait the squeezes on a druid and then we shift that.
You can knock it. You can knock it with Typhoon once they start casting it.
You can do that too. If your melee like get gripped by the squeeze, you just knock them, you stun them. Like that's one way to deal with it.
Mhm.
I just feel like there's a lot of tools to deal with it. I don't think it's as bad as maybe you're making it out to be.
I don't know. I'm not a super huge fan personally, but obviously there are some upsides, right? I have a lot of issues with the current Mythic Plus system, but I can't tell how much of it's dungeon design and how much of it's affix design.
I'm pretty sure one of my friends addressed that issue as well. I do believe the reason why we're not able to do these huge pulls, not just because of Infested, is just because of how much CC they removed from us in terms of stuns and slows. And
Balance,
I feel like
balance seems like disproportionately strong CC wise too, like in terms of utility.
like just the amount of utility they removed that was used back then to do these big pulls, like Torrent, slow
Yes.
ring,
Torrent,
and
slow ring.
Torrent, slow ring, and just
They removed a lot of the AoE
duration
stunts.
on the AoE stuns. Like Chaos Nova is only 2 seconds in PvE, whereas it's 4
Fucking
seconds in
binding
PvP.
shots a root.
Just lots of stuff like that where I feel like, I don't know, I guess it's the direction that they want to go into, but for me that's what made the game fun, or doing Mythic Plus fun, so I'm not a big fan of it.
It's just pruning abilities, and I don't know. I don't think it was necessarily like the wrong step, but it definitely is like they're trying to dumb it down a lot and make you pull like one pack at a time, and it's kind of working, kind of not. I mean, obviously Gape said that they're still like pulling everything and like grouping it up and like AoEing it down, but like they are definitely intending on you to be doing one pack at a time, right?
Which just seems like, I don't know, if they want to up the MDF viewership, I feel like that's so boring to watch because every team is just going to be doing the same thing. Where
Well,
they just put one.
they'll
pack at a
just
time.
run lower keys. I know the BlizzCon thing was like not supposed to be a real MDI or whatever. It's just, you know, a first look for people at these dungeons and
It's
how
a
people would
sponsor
run
event,
them.
I think is what it was intended to be. Intended to like,
Yeah, so, but they're only running 13s, and you already had people at the time on live almost running 20s. You know, 13s are not hard, and even last year in the MDI, you're not doing like pushing.
Yeah, we did 22s when we were 970 item level, but at 970 item level, we could have easily have done like 26s and 27s.
Yeah, you had people on live pushing 27, 28 keys, and you're doing 22s.
But that was like they were like 980 item level though. We were like 970.
Okay, I mean that is fair, but
yes.
So you can do way more with that item.
We could have done 27s with 970 item level. Yeah, so there is a lot of difference. I don't know. It feels like the dungeons aren't designed around like an exponential scaling system too. I was talking about this with somebody earlier. It feels like the dungeons are definitely not designed to be like infinitely scaling on this Mythic Plus system, where it's like I don't fully understand why sometimes. It's not like just the one shots, but it's like the first boss in Underrot, the last boss in Toldagor, that kind of shit. It's like what's the purpose of some of these mechanics? The third boss in King's Rest, fucking, it's disgusting too.
I just think we haven't reached a point where they've tuned it properly yet. I think.
Do you think it's coming?
Yes. I mean,
okay.
when the real MDI comes, the tuning will come. I mean, they just did a big tuning pass on a lot of stuff.
You know what? You're right. They have been addressing stuff. I'm not giving them enough credit. They have been addressing some of these Mythic Plus issues. They nerfed explosive again for like the second time, right? I don't know. They're nerfing. They buffed a lot of the timers or whatever, making it a little bit easier to complete some of these keys.
I'm not at all sure why. I heard the Underrot timer was buffed. I don't know why that timer was buffed. The dungeon's so easy. Once you get past the first boss.
Toldagor, I think.
So I agree with you on that. I don't understand why Toldagor and Underrot's timer were buffed. I'm so confused on that. So Underrot, yes, exactly. Once you get past the first boss, it's over. Maybe they're buffing it because it's really hard to do if you're like killing the first like couple packs of trash, right? At the very beginning of the instance.
Perhaps.
I would have liked to have seen a nerf to the last boss in Toldagor and a nerf to the first boss in Underrot, personally.
I would have just liked a bug fix or just like consistency on like the bursts, because getting 3 in a row is just unhealable. And just
oh yeah, exactly. No, and the last boss of Toldagor, exactly. No, they need to fix the spell queuing stuff.
There should be no reason that. I actually have a really good example of this. If you want to listen real quick, we did an 18 Toldagor the other day or last week, I guess. Our healer, because we got 7 doubles throughout the fight, our healer had to do over 30k HPS and ended the fight completely We did a 19 later that day, only got a single double. Healer only had to do 23k HPS and ended the fight with half mana.
That's so bullshit.
Like, why was an 18 dramatically harder than a 19 just because of random ability order?
Yeah. I sent multiple clips to a mutual friend of ours discussing that spell queue issue with cross ignition and Deadeye shot in addition to the explosive, right? So hopefully it gets fixed. That shit's really frustrating.
Yeah, but I mean, even that aside, the fact that they've added a timer to that, or added to the timer of that instance, you're going to see people doing like
20s.
1 or maybe even 2 higher key level. I think a 20 for that place was already done in time. You're going to see like a 21, maybe even a 22 on the next Fortified week.
I mean, I didn't think that dungeon was fairly difficult, right? If you have a good comp for it, it didn't seem that hard.
Yeah. The rest of the bosses are pretty easy, and the trash you just kite.
Obviously, you need like a pretty concrete pull strategy for that dungeon, but it's linear enough to not fuck up very hard. It's obviously not linear like Maw of Souls, but it is fairly linear.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I think that's it. Gape, where can we find you, dude?
Where can you find me?
Yeah.
Like in real life?
All right. No.
Okay, no, on the internet. I mean, I should make a Twitter account.
A tweeter? You don't have a twatter?
Whoa, dude, can you say that here?
You should.
I thought this was a PG stream.
This is a PG stream.
Is it?
What are you talking about twatting?
Moms and gamer dads that watched that.
Messed up, man.
Gamer moms and gamer dads.
Rise up?
No, I mean, twitch.tv/Gapezilla. Can check out the stream.
Watch him,
That's about it right now.
Hit some fat parses, get some Mythic Plus score.
How the YouTube bucks? Should I make a YouTube titles?
Not very good. Don't worry.
maybe no YouTube then. But yeah, follow my stream.
Yeah, follow his stream, dude. Hit him with that follow. And David, where can we find you, brother?
Same thing for me. Just on my stream most of the time. Davidq42 is where you'll find me. I usually stream raids and Mythic Plus, the usual PvP. I have a Twitter, but it's pretty much not used ever. So yeah, just go check out my stream.
You can also message him in game, Davidq, Zul'jin.
And
isn't it Davidq $? My bad.
No.
Whoa!
You can't use $signs in your name.
Oh, okay.
And Nick, where can we find you, man?
Mostly in the Druid Discord and on twitch.tv/NickDruid. I usually stream our raids, but it's kind of hard currently because my internet connection is like really shitty. And there's a lot of
trash?
and there's a lot of PTR testing going on, so I can't stream this.
All right, and as always, if you like the video, drop a subscribe, hit the like button, and I think that's it.
Check our Patreon. Oh, there he is. And he's gone.
All right, later, guys.
Later.
Peace.